Let me ask you something. If a doll blinked at you, even though it didn't have eyelids, would you sit still and wait, or would you run for your life? Because last night, at exactly midnight, I found myself standing in front of an old locked room, stacked wall to wall with nothing but haunted dolls. I thought this would be just another dare, another scary story to tell my friends. But the longer I stood there staring inside, the heavier the air around me grew, and the more I realized something inside was moving, even when it shouldn't have been. You've probably heard the legends, the ones whispered across generations. Annabelle, locked behind glass because she wouldn't stop causing accidents. Robert, the doll in Florida, dressed in sailor clothes, who's blamed for years of curses. The Okiku doll in Japan, whose hair still grows even after repeated trims. I always thought these were stories, campfire tales told to keep kids from misbehaving. But the collector I had met swore that dolls aren't just toys, they're vessels, containers where something can hide. I laughed at him, brushed it off like he was trying to scare me. But then he handed me the key to his private collection and said, "If you're brave enough, stay there alone tonight. Stay until sunrise and see how much you still laugh afterwards." The house was ice cold when I arrived, like every window was open, even though they were all shut tight. I walked down a narrow wooden corridor, the floor groaning with every step. At the end was a plain door, scratched with tiny lines that looked like fingernails had dragged across its paint. I placed the key inside the lock, twisted it, and heard a sound like a sigh escape from inside. The moment I opened the door, my flashlight beam bounced across porcelain faces and lifeless painted eyes. There must have been over 100 dolls staring back at me, all stacked on shelves, slumped in rocking chairs, hanging in rows. Some were cracked, some missing limbs, some sewn with mouths stretched too wide like forced smiles. And as soon as I crossed the threshold, I knew this night wouldn't make me laugh. That first breath in that room was thick, heavy, almost like smoke lingered in the air, though the room was cleared. When I exhaled, I swore I could see frost form from my mouth, even though it was the middle of summer. I took slow steps inside, every creak beneath my shoes sounding far louder than it should have. My flashlight caught the eye of a porcelain doll with black curls and a cracked cheek. The collector had told me her story before I came, that she had been found in the ashes of a fire that killed a little girl, untouched by the flames, still wearing the same burnt-smelling dress. People swore her eyes would shift if you looked long enough. So I looked, I stared, and after 10 seconds, I'd swear her pupils slid to the left, following me. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, told myself it was nothing, and yet my chest tightened. Then there was the ragged cloth doll, stitched with a smile far too wide. Someone stuck a cheap tape recorder inside her back in the 80s that used to laugh if you pressed the button. They said it had long since broken, never worked again. I brushed my hand along her shoulder, and instantly, my flashlight flickered, the beam cutting out as if swallowed, plunging me in darkness for 2 seconds before coming back. In that darkness, I swear I heard a giggle in my left ear. My heart slammed like it was trying to break through my ribs. I stepped back, muttered to myself that it was a coincidence. Only when I moved the flashlight away, her button let out the faintest crackle of sound, though my hand never touched it. Halfway through the rows, I stopped in front of a small glass cabinet, holding a baby doll. Its head was large, its glass eyes milky, cracked and spiderweb lines. The collector's warning echoed in my head. Never open the glass case. no matter what you hear. He said people claimed that if you cracked the locks, you'll hear crying follow you for weeks, waking you up at night. I pulled my camera closer, shined the beam over its cheeks, and froze. Because faint, muffled, unmistakable, something made the sound of a baby crying from behind that sealed glass. A stuttering noise, like wah, wah, weak, but there. I closed my eyes tight, pulled the camera away. I didn't dare look back. Minutes turned to hours until my nerves felt shredded. My throat was dry as sand. Every step I took echoed like someone else was trailing mine, following just a half second behind me. I thought it was exhaustion messing with my ears. I lowered the camera to a small tripod, left it rolling, and walked toward the far back shelf. That's when it happened. The moment that broke me. A porcelain doll fell from the top shelf, in front of me. But it didn't fall like it should have. It didn't tumble sideways or slip forward. The doll launched forward straight at my chest, as if pushed by a hand. I froze as it hit my shoes and cracked. I gasped out loud, sucking in cold air. Slowly, incredulously, I bent down to see the broken face. Before my very eyes, the shattered head turned a fraction of an inch as it sat there on the floor. No vibration could have made porcelain shift that way. No explanation that doesn't involve something watching me. I stumbled back, flashlight shaking in my hand, my breath filling the silence way too loudly. Then, 3 knocks, deliberate, heavy, right behind me. I spun around, my beam cutting through the air, hitting only shelves, cracked dolls, shadows. Nothing moved. My skin turned to ice all over. I clenched my fist on the flashlight as tight as I could. I whispered under my breath that I was imagining it. But when I swung the beam back forward, I almost dropped it. The cracked-cheeked doll from earlier, the one with the scorched dress, was no longer slumped on the shelf. She was sitting upright, staring, her head higher than before. I swear with everything I have, I didn't touch her. I collapsed back into the corner of the room, sucking shallow breaths, trying to keep the camera pointed anywhere so it didn't miss the evidence if something else happened. Every creak of the floor above me sounded like footsteps. Every tick of the clock outside felt like someone counting down. My body screamed to run, to get out, to end it. But the deal was simple. Stay until sunrise. Prove it wrong. Prove it's just legend. By 4 a.m., I was shaking. My flashlight's beam flickered relentlessly. I swear I saw shadows lean over my shoulder, only vanishing when I turned. The dolls never blinked, but each time I returned my gaze, their positions felt slightly off, like they'd leaned just an inch closer. The baby doll's muffled crying seeped into my consciousness like it was 2 feet from my ear instead of behind glass. And then, as the first streaks of sunrise began slicing weak gold through the cracks in the old wood, the laughter quieted, the crying silenced, and my flashlight, without a touch, steadied again. I stumbled out of that door with the key shaking in my hand. My lungs burned with relief as I stepped into morning air, like I'd been underwater this whole time. Was it real? Were the dolls truly alive, cursed, possessed? Or did my mind, starved on fear, invent movements and shadows and sound and silence? I can't answer that with certainty, but I can tell you this. The footage I shot captured the doll falling straight forward. Gravity doesn't work that way. The audio picked up the muffled cries my ears heard. The knocks are stamped into the waveforms. And every night since, I've dreamed of glass eyes in the dark, unblinking, waiting. So now, you tell me, Would you stay a single night in a room like that? Would you dare breathe the same air as dolls stitched with curses and cemented with decades of whispers? Or would you be smarter than I was and run the second the first crack of porcelain hit the floor? Because if you think they're just toys, if you think they're harmless, try standing in the dark with them alone at midnight. Then decide whether the next blink you see belongs to you or to them.